At Team Toyota, they've been selling and servicing new and used Toyotas in your community for over 50 years. And you can reserve your next new Toyota with them today. You'll get a realistic timeline, and even in this crazy market, they won't charge you over MSRP. Or don't wait at all. With over 75 certified Toyotas, including a bunch of RAV4 and Highlanders, you can drive one home today. And you can always trust them to maintain your current vehicle. Their service and collision centers are high-tech, comfortable, and will save you time and money. Team Toyota can help you go anywhere you want, but they'll always be your hometown team. Just visit teamtoyota.net and choose from 3 locations in Langhorne, Glen Mills, or Princeton. Hey everybody, welcome to the Phillies Talk podcast presented by Team Toyota. Corey Seidman and Jim Salisbury here with you as always. After the first game of the Phillies 4-game series against the Dodgers, which opened with a win, a 9-7 Phillies win. It was very eventful. The wins are never easy out at Dodger Stadium, Jim. There's a lot to get to from Thursday's action. But let's begin prior to the game with the news of Bryce Harper's injury, that it sounds like it's a little more serious than initially believed. And now he has a minor tear in the UCL.
Yes, small tear in the UCL, ulnar collateral ligament. And in layman's terms, I mean, that's the Tommy John ligament. That's the bad one. That's the one you don't want to hurt. It's been going on for a month. All these questions were asked a month ago. Is it the UCL? The answers were no. Will you have a cortisone injection? Will you have a PRP? No. It lingered. He had more tests. Lo and behold, it is the UCL. He will have a PRP injection. And he'll have that Sunday, be down for a few days, but be back in the lineup probably on Wednesday. The good news is it doesn't affect his swing. It only prevents him from throwing. And obviously he's raking in 23 games as the DH since this injury. He's hitting, 319, 6 homers, 15 RBIs, 967 OPS. So he's doing a lot of damage, and he did a lot of damage in that win in Los Angeles on Thursday night with 3 RBIs, a home run, RBI double, and a sacrifice fly in that 9th inning. The sacrifice fly came to help him put him over the top. So it's given them some clarity, and they have a roadmap to treat it. That's good news. The bad news is it's the UCL. It's not something you want. It's a lot different than a flexor. And you're going to have to really manage it. And the PRP injection is the first step. They hope that'll bring it around and heal it and help him get back on the field defensively, and more importantly, not make it any worse. You don't want this thing to be any worse. The question is, what's the end game? Is it surgery? Will this thing heal over on its own? Possibly. They have in the past, small tears to the UCL. Will it require surgery? Possibly. Can you manage it throughout the season and have the surgery in the off season? Possibly. Will it require full-blown Tommy John surgery? Who knows? There is a relatively new procedure to address a UCL tear. It's called an internal brace. And I'm not a doctor, and I didn't sleep at a Holiday Inn last night. But what I know about an internal brace is some people call it Tommy John light, and it can be addressed. It can be used to address a UCL tear, a small UCL tear. And there's an example on the Phillies roster right at first base of a guy who's had it. Rhys Hoskins had it after 2020, after the 2020 season. Remember when he extended, he kind of got paintbrushed with his left arm. So it's not his throwing arm, a little different scenario. But he had a small tear in his UCL. They fixed it with an internal brace procedure. Steve Cohen, the Phillies team doctor, did the procedure. And he was on the field opening day. He was ready to go in spring training. He took it a little slow, but he was on the field opening day. So there's just a lot of ways this thing can be treated, and they're very, very hopeful that they can treat it with the PRP injection, and that spurs or is a catalyst for healing that will prevent all these surgeries and prevent this from being a lingering thing. So the good news is he can keep hitting and keep socking the ball like he has been.
Yeah, this is a pretty rare example of a guy being able to stay on the field and play through this. And obviously, Harper's been able to play through it because the Phillies have the benefit of the designated hitter. It's just amazing that this happens to the Phillies in the first year of having the DH. They got to be thanking their lucky stars
No
because Nick
question.
Castellanos has pretty much become the full-time right fielder. And it sounds like he's going to be the full-time right fielder the rest of the way. I mean, barring some sort of miraculous recovery out of Harper. But to your point, he's continued to hit. Harper now leads the majors with 19 extra base hits. He's been on a little bit of a binge here lately. Leads the majors this year in extra base hits, leads the majors the last 2 years in extra base hits, and leads the National League in extra base hits over the last 3 seasons. So he really has performed from the power department as a Philly. And in the 9th inning, in that at bat where Daniel Hudson threw the wild pitch, you could tell that just like all the wheels were in motion in his head, all the wheels were spinning. He has Bryce Harper up at the plate with runners in scoring position. That had to have affected that at bat, led to that go ahead run. There was also a really good at bat by Alec Bohm in that 9th inning, working a walk, 3-2, spoiling a couple of pitches. So all in all, a good effort from the Phillies offense. But it was, as Jim said, the second time in the span of a week that the Phillies blew a 7-1 lead. This time they were able to live to tell about it. But Jose Alvarado, just one of those implosions that we've seen frequently, too frequently from him. It seems like when you put Jose Alvarado in against a good team in a high-pressure spot, it's a recipe for disaster.
Well, he's an adventure. You're either walking off the mound pumping your fist, or you're in the stands as a fan pumping your fist as he's walking off the mound pumping his fist, or you're completely heartbroken. It doesn't seem to be any middle ground with him. He's one of these guys who can quite literally walk the bases full and then strike out the side. He's got that unpredictable level of command and control, yet that off the chart stuff. We're talking 99, 100 with sync. But he's, for me, is a hard guy to trust in high leverage. Joe was clearly resting some guys in his bullpen, and it almost come back to bite them. Bilotti come in and got him out of it. Rhys Hoskins had a good play, and then they rallied in the 9th. But at this point, I think we've seen Jose Alvarado enough. It's great stuff. It's poor control. You're never really gonna know what you're gonna get. And every time you throw him out there, you better be braced for disaster. And there was almost disaster last night. And thank goodness for the Phillies, they were able to rally. I think you made a really interesting point. I love the game within the game, but you say you're talking about bases are loaded, and you can see Daniel Hudson, the wheels in his head spinning. That's what traffic on the bases can do. Even a guy on first base who has good speed, that pitcher's a little bit distracted, makes a little mistake, misses his spot by an inch, boom. That's what traffic on the bases can do. To hit and to pitch requires, these guys, this is the highest level of the game. These guys are elite players. They're playing at, breakneck speed. The game, we're sitting in the stands, we're sitting in the press box. We don't have any appreciation for how fast that game is moving. But it is moving fast. And when your concentration slips like that, that's when you make a mistake, and that's when you can rally like they did against Daniel Hudson. So it was a great job by Herrera, Hoskins, and who else got on base? Bohm, to get on base there and get Daniel Hudson's wheels spinning, as you said. But late game bullpen has been an adventure for this team for a lot of years now, and it's still going to be an adventure because you got big hard throws like Alvarado, Familia, who they have control issues. I do have to say this: Corey Knebel has taken a lot of the adventure out of the 9th inning. I know he had a tough game that Thursday night when they blew the 7-1 lead against the Mets. I just, again, talk about the focus that it takes to execute in these moments, either at the plate or on the mound. I just don't think he was mentally prepared to be in that game because it was 7-1. You're sitting in the bullpen thinking you're getting the night off, and all of a sudden within 5 minutes, you're tightening your spikes and you're going to go out there and deliver. It's no excuse. You got to do it. But, human nature, you're not walking that razor blade because it looks like it should be a blowout, and it should have been a blowout. maybe he's just not locked and loaded because, a closer in a close game, you're starting to get locked and loaded about that sixth inning. You think you might be called on, you start loosening up your hamstrings, your calves, your back, do some stretching, reading some scouting reports, kind of looking ahead who you might face, getting your game face, getting mentally prepared, getting sharp, and going out there and delivering. When you're up 7-1, you're thinking, I got the night off here. I should have the night off here. It's tough to flip that switch and go in there and have your stuff match your mental intensity. So I really think that is one of the contributing factors to that harrowing loss against the Mets. And certainly Knebel rebounded and closed that thing out, boom, boom, boom on Thursday night. And, I guess I'm a little long-winded here in saying even in spite of that poor outing against the Mets a week ago, I think he's taken a lot of adventure out of the ninth inning, and he's been a nice pickup.
Yeah, he did. He flipped that switch and was boom, boom, boom. I mean, he loaded the bases with nobody out, but after that mound visit from Caleb Cotham with JT Realmuto, 1-2-3 went the Dodgers. A little bit of a scary situation, but Corey Knebel's really added like stability and competence to the ninth inning, and I thought that that bases loaded situation last night, that was an example where like having really good stuff pays off. If that's Brandon Workman in that spot, does he get out of bases loaded, nobody out? Well, maybe not, but Corey Knebel has 95, 96 that he can command. He has a good breaking ball, and so far blown only one save in 8 opportunities. Jim, offensively for the Phillies, things really seem to be falling into place. 9 runs in this game. They had that big game to open the Mariners series where there were 6 different guys with multiple hits. On Thursday, 9 different Phillies had a hit. The only one who was hitless was Nick Castellanos. Odubel Herrera contributed off the bench, came off the bench in that 9th inning, laid down a bunt down the third baseline to start that Phillies rally. But this kind of just seems to be like the offense that we expected. Yeah, it was slow getting going for 2 or 3 weeks, but the Phillies are right there at the top of baseball in most offensive categories: slugging, OPS, extra base hits, runs per game, even batting average with runners in scoring position. And Thursday, they did a really good job of situational hitting with 3 different sacrifice flies, including Harper's in the 9th inning, which was just a huge run of insurance.
Yeah, that's the name of the game. Take the run any way you can get it. You get one, they got to get 2 now. You got to take those runs where they're available, when you can get them. Not everything has to be a line drive over the wall or a bomb over the wall or a line drive off the wall. On this trip, we've seen Hoskins start to come around a little bit. And we've talked the last few podcasts about how important he is to lengthening that lineup, to kind of being the guy who brings it all together in the middle, and guy who delivers a lot of RBIs. And he's warming, much like he warmed last May. He had a really good month of May in 2021. I think he hit over 300, drove in a bunch of runs. That's what they need. You need to score runs and give this pitching staff some room to breathe a little bit. Because the starting pitching staff's for most part done a really good job, but you need run support. You can't be walking a tightrope every night.
So this Phillies-Dodgers series continues on Friday as Kyle Gibson against Clayton Kershaw, who's it's pretty good if you haven't heard. The Phillies are actually set to face Clayton Kershaw, Walker Buehler, and Julio Urias the next 3 nights, so it could be rough going for the offense, but the Phillies are kind of clicking. Things are falling into place. Gene Segura, red hot. I remember talking to you like a week ago that Segura was down to 225. Now Segura's up to 307, and he's just been doing great things every night, whether it's he had a homer in 3 straight games. He's been stealing bases. He's been walking, which is not a staple of like the Gene Segura offensive profile. But the Phillies are getting those contributions. Johan Camargo, a really big spot with a second inning 3-run homer against the Dodgers. But, Jim, another piece of Thursday's game was that Zach Wheeler was able to return, pitched really well in the early going of that game. The prior night, Bailey Falter made a start for the Phillies. Bailey Falter, in that spot start, did his job. 4 2/3 innings, allowed just 1 run. He, stepped up in a spot where the Phillies needed him because of that lack of rotation depth that they have.
Big time. What an effort by Bailey Falter. Did a great job. He was a huge key to that victory, him and Rhys Hoskins with that grand slam. But, hats off to Bailey Falter. He was very disappointed when he gets sent out about 2 weeks ago. He'd spent quite a bit of time in the big leagues. It's hard to be sent out and go to the AAA. But it wasn't a classic demotion. for doing a bad job. The demotion was because they needed to get him out of there because he was sitting around in the bullpen, and they needed to get him as a starter down in AAA and building some workload so he could be basically their sixth starter in case a need developed. Well, what happens a week later? A need develops, and he's on the mound in Seattle, helping them win a big ball game. And so they sent him back out after the game. After he did a good job. I mean, that's tough to hear. That's tough to swallow. When you do a good job and you're sent back to the minor leagues, but it's out of necessity. It's because he's basically the sixth starter on this team, and they can't have you sitting in the bullpen growing cobwebs. You got to be down in AAA, staying sharp, executing pitches, building a workload. So when another need arises, you can step up here and do what you did in Seattle. So it's a tough part of the business for a player who's kind of looking to become established. But when you become established, you're not the sixth man anymore, and you work your way into rotation, and you have a spot that, they can depend on you, and you can depend on that spot being there. So it's like any other job. When the boss calls upon you, you got to be there and do it. And he did a good job. And now he's back in AAA. It's not a perfect scenario for him personally, but the Phillies have to feel like they have a sixth man now for when they need it. And though he is not, wearing a P on his hat this week, he's very much a Philly, and he's very much an important part of that ball club. And you mentioned Segura getting hot. That's one of the beauties of being a contact hitter and having an uncomplicated swing. I mean, he's short to the ball, boom, boom, right to the ball, right? Not a lot of moving parts, very simple. You can come out of it like that. And he is a very, very gifted hitter when he's going good. So in addition to Rhys Hoskins, it's good to see him get something going. And, you and I talked last week about what would be a good trip. Well, they're 3-1, 4 games in. There's that great graphic, man. You were right. You were perfect with that, right?
Like I knew. Sometimes I can feel where you're going next.
Oh my God, you were like you're throwing strikes, man.
That's me clicking the buttons for all you people watching on YouTube. All right, well, that's going to do it for this.
That's a good start to a trip now. So now you have to look at this as a 3-game trip, right? Mm-hmm. A 3-game series, and try to go out and win the series, and that'll be a really, really good trip for this team. Really.
And if they turn this into a 3-game trip and they can avoid getting swept by that Kershaw, Buehler, Urias trio, then they will end the road trip with a winning record, which coming off of that last homestand which was lousy in multiple ways. I mean, that would be a big step in the right direction for the Phillies, who are hitting some decent pitching right now. We'll see if the offense can keep it up. It is Kyle Gibson and Clayton Kershaw on Friday night.
You got to show some fight, Corey.
I got to show some fight?
No, the team's got to show some fight. I'm leading up to, unlike that basketball team last night.
Ooh. Yes. It's funny. It's funny just how drastically the conversation can change. I mean, James Harden, now you have people wondering, is he even worth giving a max contract to this offseason? Which, that's a conversation for a different day and a different podcast.
That's the length and breadth of my basketball knowledge, but my God, the last 2 games, no fight. I mean, come on, this is competition. Go out swinging. But that's all I got for you on the Hoops team.
Yeah, to lose by a blowout in Game 5, and then for Harden to wilt in Game 6, you can understand Joel Embiid having a rough game. But
where's the effort? Give it some effort.
No excuse. All right, well, good effort from Jim on this Phillies Talk podcast, and me too, I guess. So, all right, we will catch you guys later this weekend. Thanks for listening.